Hi.
Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. And guys, I'm so happy to be sitting here today to be talking to you about the books that I read in April. April was the craziest month for me. If you guys have been following me recently, you especially know. April is my crazy season at work. It was also the month that I was publishing my second novel, Something Rad, this big boy that has just been consuming my life for the last 9 months, but especially this last month, just getting everything finalized for it, getting it published, getting it done. Like, it's just been such a joy, such a dream, but it took up a lot of my time, a lot of my brain space. And so April did not leave me a ton of time to read. I did get to read 5 books, but the month ended and I cannot believe it. It felt like it was kind of never gonna end, and then all at once everything just came together. My book came out, work chilled out, and yeah, I actually spent this last week on vacation. I was in Santa Barbara in California. I got to just unplug. I did some naturey things. I went on some hikes. I did some kayaking. I just hung out with my friend and we just had the best time. So it was just great to really like take a minute and relax. That's why this video is a little bit late, but you know, I deserved a little R&R, and I'm just back, and you know, being the introvert, being the reader that I am, as much as my vacation was fun, I'm so happy to be back in my routine, filming for you guys, getting to read some books again. But yeah, I did want to still talk to you guys about the couple of books I was able to read in the month of April. It really was a weird month, just all in all together, but the books that I read, very different, all different categories, types of books, different feelings that I have about them. So yeah, let's just talk through it. So first up, in the month of April, I read a book that I had been really excited for this year. It was one of my most highly anticipated releases of the entire year. It was called Do I Know You by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. You guys might remember, if you've been following me for a while, that The Roughest Draft by this husband and wife writing duo was one of my absolute favorite books that I read last year. I was just like over the moon to find this book, to find these authors. I just absolutely ate this book up. I loved it. It reminded me of People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry combined with Beach Read. Like, all the best parts of it just made better. I was obsessed with it. I feel like I've talked about it so much. So it's obvious to say that when I knew they had another book coming out, I was so ready for it. It also had the same sort of like summary vibes to it. It was also about a husband and wife, and since they were so good at writing, you know, about a couple in this story, I was just interested to see what they were gonna do with this one. And I just have to say, before I even talk about it, I was really disappointed, which just absolutely sucks. You know, whenever you find a book by an author and you're just like, these are gonna be like my new authors, like they're gonna be my new obsession, I'm gonna read their entire backlog, and then I don't know, I don't want to say it's like a one-hit wonder. I might read some of their other stuff and like it, but this book just absolutely did not do it for me. As you can obviously tell, it is called Do I Know You, and this story is about a husband and wife duo named Eliza and Graham. They have been married for a few years now, and they're just kind of in that typical marriage rut. It's been about 5 years that they've been together, and you know, they've kind of passed their honeymoon phase, and now they're just living life, and they've both gotten really busy in their own jobs, and they've kind of just gotten to a point where they, you know, it's not like they're not in love, but it's like the spark has kind of died a little bit. The fire has calmed down. They're both just busy with work, and they kind of feel like they've run out of things to talk about a little bit. Like, they're kind of rehashing the same stories over and over, and that, you know, there's just not, I don't know, they're just like in kind of like a weird rough patch. So in this story, the two of them are going on this vacation together to this island getaway sort of thing to celebrate their wedding anniversary. I think it's their 5th anniversary, and they're on the way there, and this is a dual point of view story, so you kind of get both of the perspectives and you kind of see what the two of them are going through. And whenever they get there, it turns out that there was a mistake, and that they actually have 2 rooms rented out instead of just 1. And the wife kind of gets this wild and crazy idea that, how about we keep both of the rooms? How about we stay separately on this trip, and we basically pretend that we don't know each other. We're on this trip kind of on our own, and we act like we're 2 strangers. We act like we're kind of meeting for the first time, and like we're dating, and like we're almost trying to like seduce the other person. It's just like they're role playing like they're strangers, and that they're not themselves, and that they're totally different people. And you know, the story, when it kind of starts out, like, it's kind of cute to see them act like strangers and like flirty banter and stuff, and how the two of them kind of like fall in love with each other. They each are like putting in this effort to like be flirty and just, you know, fun and doing things that they wouldn't normally do in their comfortable marriage, and they each kind of like develop crushes on each other again. And it was kind of like a cute concept, but I just found the wife in this story to be so unlikable. This entire story just really kind of irritated me, because at the core of it, I didn't feel like this couple really had any sort of conflict between them. Like I said, they were just kind of going through your typical marriage rut. And yeah, I get that it's like, okay, change it up, add some spice in your life, but I just felt like the wife in this story was so toxic. And I know that like romance books are for the girlies, whatever, but in my mind, I just felt like in this story, it was like all of the blame was being placed on the husband, right? Like he's, you know, has a very big job. I think he was a lawyer, and so he works all the time, and it's like all of this pressure was put on him for him to like fix it. And again, there was nothing wrong. It's just that like the wife was kind of bored and wanted him to like woo her. And you know, I just felt like when you're seeing the guy's point of view, it's like his whole point of view was like, oh, I'm a piece of shit, she's amazing, like I need to do what I can to like earn her back and whatever. And I just like, I don't know, I feel like the wife was equally at fault with what had been happening in their relationship. And I thought she was just so like narcissistic and toxic, and just everything going on with her in her life. There were also some like other family issues going on. I just thought she wasn't a very great person or pleasant person, and I just felt so bad for the husband. I was like, you deserve better. Like, I just wish that there was more kind of equal blame on each of them, and it wasn't like, oh, the husband needs to change and be more fun and be more exciting to like woo his wife. Like, I think she could have easily had just as many issues going on with her, and I don't know, I just found it frustrating to read. I just felt like she was kind of like walking all over him, and yeah, it just got kind of like repetitive and kind of slow, and I just felt like I was absolutely trudging my way through it. And I kept thinking like, something's gonna happen, I'm gonna love the wife, like it's all gonna make sense, it's all gonna come together. But I was at like 90%, and I still was just like, I am not enjoying this. Like, it just was, I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. It was kind of goofy. I wish there was more to it. I wish there was some real like deep conflicts between them, other than just, and I get that it's very realistic that like, oh, we just kind of like lost our spark. Like, I think that happens for a lot of people, and so I get that. But again, I just felt like, I don't know, I wish there was equal blame, and I wish it wasn't like, oh, the wife, like I'm bored, you know. Just even her suggestion of like, let's stay in separate rooms. Like, it's literally their anniversary, and her to suggest this idea, which I get there wouldn't have been a story without the idea. I just felt so bad for the husband. I was like, you are such a biatch, straight up. So yeah, didn't love this book, would not recommend it. If you're gonna try out an Emily Wibberley Austin Sigmund Broca book, definitely The Roughest Draft still is amazing, but after this one, I'm just like, genuinely, I don't really have a desire to read any more of their books, which makes me sad. So I don't know, I'll see if they have another one coming out that like sounds really interesting, but this one just kind of couldn't have disappointed me more. I was really sad about it. And then next, in the month of April, I read Hunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton, which is not to be confused with Haunting Adeline. This is a duet. It is the cat and mouse duet. I read Haunting Adeline last year, and it was one of my absolute favorite books I read. It was one of those books that just like altered my brain chemistry. Like, truly, it is a dark romance. It is a spicy romance, and H.D. Carlton just does it like no other. If you're a Penelope Douglas fan, H.D. Carlton is kind of Penelope Douglas on steroids, like with an extra dash of darkness and spice. It's just so good. I love everything H.D. Carlton does. So because I loved this book so much, I flew through it. It really, just basic synopsis, sorry, off the rails here. It's a stalker romance. It follows this girl named Adeline Riley that is an author. She's basically inherited this mansion from her great-grandmother that has passed away. So she goes to live at this creepy old mansion in the middle of the woods to do her little author thing, and she basically finds herself with a stalker, with an admirer by this man that is a very dangerous man. He's involved in a lot of dark things, but he's kind of like, he's a bad guy, but he's a bad guy that, you know, goes against worse guys. Like, he's kind of like a vigilante hero sort of sort of character. I adore the man in this duet. Like, there is seriously no one that compares to him on so many levels. Like, can't even explain. He's just everything. But yeah, this book was incredible. It had me on the edge of my seat. I was so obsessed with it, but it ends on a complete and total cliffhanger. And once I finished it, I was like, I just don't want to be in a massive reading slump when I finish it. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna kind of save book 2 for a rainy day. I just want to kind of have it on the back burner. I kind of do that, like, when I love books, when I love series, like, I kind of like to know that I have a book waiting for me. Like, I just don't love to fly through it because I just feel like I have such a like empty hole in my chest once I finish that. And I'm like, what do I do now? So I've had this book on my shelf for like nearly a year now, I want to say, and I've been waiting for the right time to read it. And I guess I decided now was the right time, but I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings about it. I actually did an entire reading vlog about this where I checked in all throughout, gave all my thoughts. I haven't even edited it yet, but I feel like it's gonna be like very, very long. I did a lot of rambling, a lot of talking, and this is a very long book. So yeah, I won't go into it too much here, but I will just say this book is very, very different from this book. Like, this book is dark, this book is spicy, but this book is like really dark, and it really kind of like tests you. Every single possible trigger warning you can imagine was in this. It was heavy, it was uncomfortable. There were parts of it that were straight up just unpleasant to read without you knowing like what happened in the first book and how it ends. You're probably like, what is happening? What is this book about? But let's just say there's a lot less romance involved in this one, and I don't know, it's hard because I'm like, okay, the writing was incredible. H.D. Carlton, I don't know how you write this kind of stuff genuinely, but enjoyment level, I didn't love it. I didn't love it as much as this one. Of course, the ending, it all kind of came together. Again, I still love the guy in the story. I love the girl. I love the whole concept, but I don't know. Not to like spoil my whole reading vlog because I want you to go watch that if you're interested in all my thoughts, but I do kind of wish that this book was just made like 100 pages longer, maybe even 150. I don't mind a thick book, it doesn't scare me. I wish it was made like 150 pages longer, and I could have done without a lot of this book because I just don't think it added to the story. It just wasn't very pleasant to read. I think we could have kind of like wrapped up all of our loose ends and did a lot of what this book was trying to do, just adding on to this book. But that's just my general thoughts. I'm happy I read it. I'm gonna read literally everything H.D. Carlton comes out with because yeah, she's just incredible. And then next, I read the book that I'm pretty sure is going to be in every single book creator's April wrap-up, Happy Place by Emily Henry. You guys know, if you've been following me for a while, that People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry is just one of my absolute favorite books of all time. Emily Henry at this point for me is just an auto-buy author. I just know anything that she writes is going to be good. It's going to be something I can enjoy, something that I can fly through. It's going to be an easy read. Like, she just has this very kind of like cozy, quirky sort of writing style that's just, it's just fun to read. She's really good at writing couples, like banter, friendship groups. It's just something that she's great at. So I was very, very excited to read this book. And again, this is another one of those where I made an entire video. I think it's like a 30-minute video rambling about this book, so I won't talk about it too in depth, but it follows this couple, this girl named Harriet and this guy named Wynn, and they are a part of this friendship group of 6 people. They all met whenever they were in college. They all at one point or another lived in the same apartment, and now they're grown adults, they're in their 30s, and they have kept in touch this entire time. And it's sort of a tradition for them that every single summer they come together to stay at this lake house that one of the friends' family owns. And so this friendship group over time has kind of like developed. People have joined it. There's kind of couples now within the friend group, and they're just one big happy family. It's really like a found family sort of moment. And Harriet and Wynn are our 2 main characters. They actually are a couple, have been a couple for the last like 8-ish years or so, and they've actually been engaged for the last couple of years as well. But now it is time for the annual trip with all of their friends once again. But the kicker of this all is that Harriet and Wynn have actually broken up. They've been broken up for the last like 5 or 6 months, and none of the friends know, but they have to come together. They have to go on this trip because it is actually going to be their last trip. The family that owns this house is selling it, and so they can come back to this place, but they can't and won't ever be at the same house again. It just won't ever be the same. So this is kind of their big last friendship hurrah. So the two of them don't want to ruin it, don't want to kill the vibes by being like, yeah, we actually aren't together anymore. So they basically decide that they are going to pretend to still be together and pretend like everything is normal. And as you can guess, that makes things a little bit complicated, having to share a room, pretend to be coupley, you know, major forced proximity aspects to all of this. So yeah, things kind of spiral, a lot happens, there's a lot to this story, a lot, you know, it is about relationships, but it's also about friendship really deeply. It's about growing up, it's about growing apart, it's about life and how just like over time things change, we grow, people go in separate directions, and it's just one of those books about like what really makes you happy in life and what's really the most important and what you should focus on. And there's just a lot to it. Honestly, it was really different than what I expected. I just kind of thought this was going to be like a happy-go-lucky little summery romance book, you know, just Emily Henry vibes, but it was actually like, at parts it was pretty heavy and it really made you think. And it was one of those books where you kind of like sat there at the end and you were like, damn, like what do I want in life, you know? So I was really impressed. I think Emily Henry did a good job. It kind of gave me some Taylor Jenkins Reid vibes a little bit, which Taylor Jenkins Reid is my favorite author of all time. So I really like those books that make you think and make you, you know, question things and are very kind of relatable books that kind of like everybody can see a little bit of themselves in. So I really liked it. For me, it didn't dethrone People We Meet on Vacation, and I think maybe that's just because that book just has such a special place in my heart. It's just like at the time that I read it, I had never read anything like it. It just was exactly what I needed to read at the time that I read it. So maybe in one way or another, she'll never be able to dethrone People We Meet on Vacation for me, but I really liked it. It was definitely my second favorite of her books that I've read, and super impressed. I hope that she kind of like continues to go down this path and kind of expand her horizons and her writing styles. And yeah, I overall really liked it. So next I decided to pick up something totally different. I kind of found myself in a little bit of a weird like slump. Sometimes when you read a lot of different romance books back to back, or if you're just like, I don't know, times are crazy, times are weird, sometimes you just like don't want to read a fluffy romance book. You're just like not in the right headspace. So I was like, I want to read a thriller. I want something that just like grips me, pulls me back in. I've been in a reading slump. I need something that just has me like glued to a book, wanting to read it. And so I picked up a book that I've had on my list for a really long time. It is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I have seen so many people rave about this book, say that it totally blew their mind, but I really didn't know anything about it. I went into it totally blind, and I'm so glad that I did, because this concept was so interesting. It's basically about this husband and wife that, you know, are like in their early 40s. They're a little bit older, and the husband actually has this condition. I don't know if it's like a condition or like a, you know, like a mental disability or what you would call it exactly, but he cannot see faces. He's face blind. So he can look at you, like he just cannot pick out any sort of particular features on your face. Like he can recognize people by their voices, by their smells, you know, by their hair, but faces he cannot remember. Like he can look at you, look away, when he looks back, he won't recognize your face. So that obviously creates for a very interesting just aspect of their relationship as a husband and wife, that this wife is like, you know, I've been with this my husband for all these years, but he wouldn't be able to pick me out in a lineup. Like it's just kind of already, when it comes to a thriller, that's just kind of like a chilling little aspect that I was like, oh my gosh, what is gonna happen with this story? But basically, the husband and wife have been going through some troubles recently. They're kind of just like not really vibing with one another. They've been bickering and arguing, and their anniversary is coming up. So it turns out that the two of them have won this sort of like weekend getaway at this old abandoned church that has kind of been turned into an Airbnb out in the middle of the woods in Scotland. So the two of them, even though they're not really getting along right now, it's like, it's our anniversary, we're doing this, get in the car, we're going. And so they go to this old abandoned church. It is like snowing and it's storming. By the time they get there, it's like they can't even drive any further. They're kind of locked into this church for at least the night, if not the weekend, because the weather is so bad. And right upon getting to this church, there is just a lot going on. Things right away are very creepy, seem very out of place. Lots of things ensue. It is such an interesting story the way it's told, because you get all sorts of points of view. You get the wife's point of view, you get the husband, you also get these sort of like letters that are thrown in there throughout the course of their marriage that the wife had written to the husband. So you kind of like see their relationship, like them get together, like things kind of over time, you know, bloom and grow and then fall in love, and then them sort of start to like bicker with one another. The husband is actually a writer. He writes movies, and so he's very much like a recluse. He's really like thrown into his work and focused on his work, and that's kind of created like a wedge in their relationship. So it was just so good. Honestly, it's one of those stories where there's like a lot of things going on and you're kind of going like, what is happening? Like, why does this matter? Like, why are we learning about this? Who is this character? And the whole time you're trying to like figure it out. But when you do understand and learn what happens, I was knocked off my feet. I was flabbergasted. I was so unbelievably shook. Like, I never saw it coming in a million years. And it's one of those books where every single thing is important and every single thing matters, because again, I was kind of like, what is this? What does this have to do with the story? But like, it all comes together in the end and it all makes sense. And I was so completely shook, and I just love being shook. I love like that jaw-dropping moment where you're like, no, like, oh my gosh, what? It was just crazy, and I really, really liked it. I want to check out some more books by Alice Feeney. Like, just by reading this one alone, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna check out more by you. And in general, like, I just want to get into more thrillers. I think it's kind of like a fun change of pace. You know, we love romance, but I just love a book that you like can't put down, where you're like, I just have to know what happens. I just think it's so fun. So always down for more thriller recommendations. I want to read some of, I think her name's Frida McFadden. I know she has a bunch of books on KU that are thrillers that are supposed to be great. So definitely want to check more out, but yeah, definitely recommend this one. Okay, and then this book, y'all, this book, it just was one of those books. It's one of those ones that just once in a blue moon, you read it and it just makes your heart physically ache. Like, you're just like, oh my God. Even though you're a total like introvert, cold dead heart, love being alone type of person, it's one of those rare romance books where you read it and you're like, maybe I don't want to be alone forever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those where it just like makes you believe in love, and it just like warms your heart. It makes, I don't know, it just physically puts you in pain. I could ramble on forever, but I finally read Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. I have had this book on my list for years. I have been to Barnes & Noble, I would venture to say 25 different times, picked this book up and been like, I'll get it next time. Because I think something in me just knew. It just knew it was gonna hit me really hard. It's obviously like a friends to strangers to lovers kind of moment, which if you guys have followed me for any amount of time, you know that is basically my favorite trope of all time. It just hits me extra hard, and the way that this story is categorized as a love, hate, love story, it's just everything that I want and more. I love stories where, you know, present day, two people are reuniting, you can tell they have a whole lot of history between them, and then you're flashing back to the past and slowly putting it all together, seeing what sent them their separate ways. It just works. It works for me every single time. It just makes me want to cry. But yeah, this story follows this man named Matt and this woman named Grace. And when you start the story out, you're seeing Matt, you're seeing from his point of view. He's, you know, in his mid-30s at this point, and you can just tell he's kind of like sitting there questioning, like, where did my life go wrong? Like, he's recently gone through a divorce. He's kind of stuck in this office job that he doesn't really love very much, and he just feels lost. He feels very like alone. He's feeling like he, you know, messed up somewhere along the way. And you know, we kind of see his daily life for a couple of, you know, pages here and there. We're kind of learning a little bit about him, but then he is in New York City. That is where he lives, that is where he works, and he is down in the subway, and he ends up spotting this woman, and you see her turn around right as the subway doors are closing, and he absolutely is like, oh my God, Grace. And she sees him through the window as the doors are closing, and you can see her like put her hand on the window, and she's like, Matt? And then doors close, train zooms off, he doesn't know where she goes, and so you could tell that he's just like, holy shit, I never thought I was gonna see you again, Grace, like, what? And so from there, immediately the story jumps back like nearly 15 years, 20 years, I can't do math right now, but basically you learn that Matt and Grace went to school together. They went to NYU together, and they actually lived in the same dorm next door to each other. They were each other's next door neighbors. And so you see Matt and Grace meet for the first time. You see this friendship between them develop. Matt is a photographer, and he's super passionate about taking pictures, and Grace actually is a cello player. She's in the music program at NYU, and you just see the two of them bond and form this friendship, and like the conversations these two have, the like banter, like all the times that they hang out, the time that they spend together, it had me like giggling and kicking my feet. Like I was just so obsessed with them, their friendship, their relationship. Like they just had this chemistry that was so like undeniable from the first minute they met, this like soulmate type of love. And I just like loved Matt. I loved them together. Everything about them was just so perfect. And you see this friendship really, really slowly kind of like form and slowly become something more. There's a lot to it. Grace has a lot going on with her life and her family, and Matt as well has a lot that he's going through, and big dreams and things that he's trying to chase. And so you are reading this story from the past, and you're like, what could have possibly sent these two their separate ways? Like it just doesn't make any sense. But obviously you learn what happens, and then after that you flash back to the present day where the two of them are, you know, kind of working to reunite and work through everything. And oh my God, I read this book in basically one sitting. Like I couldn't put it down. I was so invested in it, and I adored it. Literally, I loved it so much. It just felt like one of those comfort reads, like one of those books that I'm just gonna have on my shelf forever. Like forever. It's going to go in a special little place next to the other books that it reminds me of. Kind of like, I feel like The Spectacular Now by Tim Tharp, like Perks of Being a Wallflower. It just gave me those like nostalgic, warm and fuzzy kind of vibes that I just don't get that often from books. So I adored it. I posted this whole TikTok just like losing my mind over it right after I read it. And Renee Carlino actually commented on it and was like, oh my God, I love you. Like this made my day. And I just like feel this like weird connection to her now. So I want to read her other books. She has this book called Swear on This Life, I think. That's also been on my list for a very long time. I think that's another kind of like Friends to Strangers to Lovers book. So definitely planning on reading that and reading more of her stuff, because oh my God, she just like blew my mind with this one. Absolutely blew my mind. I loved it. But yeah, guys, those were the 5 books that I read in the month of April. May has already started, and I've already read 5 books in the month of May, because I have just had free time now. I have some time to kind of like unplug, unwind. I read on my vacation, and I'm just gonna spend the next couple of weeks just really reading again, posting a ton on YouTube. Like I've just been so busy, and I'm so excited to kind of like get back to, not that I love writing, it is my favorite thing in the entire world, genuinely like the thing that brings me the most joy, the most fulfillment. I love it. But you know, it's nice to kind of like take a little time off, regather my thoughts before I jump into my next book, and yeah, just get some reading done and reconnect with you guys, and really you know, just be in the moment and feel good. But yeah, if you guys read any of these books, I would love to hear all your thoughts down below. If you have any other books you read in the month of April that you absolutely loved, any books that you would recommend for me to read based on my thoughts of these books, I would love to hear it all. But yeah, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.